was new to yoga, I was introduced to a single variation of Matsyasana or fish pose. Little did I know that there are many ways to do fish pose. One of the beautiful things about yoga is that every asana or yoga posture is able to be modified in order to best work for everyone's individual body. Consider this video a sort of tour of many possibilities with fish pose so that you can choose the version that's best for your body in this moment. Hi, I'm Morgan. I'm an educator turned yoga instructor here to explain everything yoga and fitness in a way that makes sense to you. I create yoga deep dives, yoga classes, and so much more. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel so you don't miss any future classes. Fish pose or Matsyasana can be understood as a counterpose to shoulder stand. So in shoulder stand, the neck is flexed with the chin into the chest, and it's flexed almost to its end range of motion. That way the muscles in the front of the body are contracting while the muscles in the back of the body are lengthening. With fish pose, the exact opposite happens. We tilt the head back, lengthening everything in the front of the throat and the chest, and then shortening muscles in the upper back. It's kind of like a back bend that's concentrated in the cervical spine or neck area. So let's have a look at some variations. The first variation of fish pose that I learned, which is probably what you would learn in an all levels vinyasa class, the instructor would have you come to lie on your back. And then you would start to press down into your forearms and elbows to lift the head, tilt the chin back, and take the top of the head to the floor. From here, we continue to support ourselves with our arms, and we breathe. Usually, teachers will have you hold this pose for 5 to 10 breaths. To come out of it, you simply start to lower yourself down and tuck your chin back into your chest. In those all-level vinyasa classes, from here you would likely go to some sort of apanasana, drawing the knees into the chest, maybe a happy baby, maybe a twist, but you would continue probably to do work on the floor until it's time for shavasana. For some of us, it's not going to be comfortable to be lying down like that without additional support. I like to cue additional support with the use of a bolster or the use of a yoga block. The bolster is much gentler feeling, and the block does more opening in the chest. Again, it's whatever works for your body in this moment. So I encourage you to try both versions to find what feels good. If you're doing it with a bolster, you would try a medium-sized bolster. Bring the bolster all the way up to the back. And then start to lie down on top of it. Notice that my head is supported here, so it's not dropping back. And I would simply take my hands by my sides. The palms can face down here or they can face up. See what feels good and interesting to you. In this case, we're not doing a lot of opening in the front of the neck here because the head is not dropping back. However, my shoulders are melting off the bolster and I have a little bit of a sense of opening in the chest area. And then I do have that curve in the lower back as well. Let's see how the block is a little bit different than the bolster. I'm using a standard sized yoga block. This is the cork one from Manduka. And you're gonna want to have it right between the shoulder blades. So we go ahead and take the block onto the mat and gently lower yourself down. My legs are outstretched. And find that spot where you have the block between the shoulder blades and then let the chest melt open as you drop the head back. Notice now I can start to take the top of my head to the floor. I have this really big sense of opening in the sternocleidomastoids. These are the muscles in the front of the neck. And I can just rest here for my 5 to 10 breaths. So what's nice about this is that I have the support from the block, but I am really getting a big sense of opening in the front of the chest and the neck. Of course, dropping the head all the way back is not going to be accessible for all bodies. It kind of depends if you're working with some kind of injury or abnormality in the spine. And so again, just really important to remember that there's no perfect version of any pose. The version that's yours is the one that feels good in the moment for your body. Finally, there's a version of Matsyasana that comes from Ashtanga Yoga, which is a very athletic form of Vinyasa Yoga, so movement with breath. To accomplish this one, we actually go straight from Padmasana, which is a variation of shoulder stand where the legs are folded into lotus, and we open up into Matsyasana with the legs still in lotus. If you do not know how to fold your legs into lotus, I have a video that covers all of the stretches that you need to start working towards lotus and actually talks you into your lotus pose step by step. I'll link to that below. Be sure to check it out if that's a goal of yours. So we need to start in Padmasana, which means embryo in Sanskrit. So I'm going to fold my legs into lotus and then hug the knees and become a little embryo here, Padmasana, embryo pose. So this is held for 10 breaths in the Ashtanga tradition. And then we're going to gently roll down. So I take my hands to the floor, I roll the spine out. From here, I'm gonna start to press into the forearms. That part should be familiar. I take the top of my head down to the mat. I hold my big toes with my hands. I'm going to gently let my legs relax down to the mat. And now I'm getting a really interesting opening in the front of the chest, in the throat, all across the spine. And then we have this added deep stretch in the hips with the lotus pose. From the Ashtanga version of Matsyasana, we can go directly into Uttana Padasana. To do that, we will unhook our lotus with the legs. Keep the head and spine where they are. Extend the legs, extend the arms. We pause here for 5 breaths. It takes a lot of muscle engagement here. When we're done, we tuck the chin into the chest, take the head to the floor, hands back by the ears, taking the toes over the head. We will push into the hands and leap into our chaturanga. Inhale for Urdhva Mukha Svanasana. Exhale for Adho Mukha Svanasana. Matsyasana with the legs folded into lotus in this version that comes from Ashtanga Yoga is of course very advanced, but the advanced part isn't actually the stretch in the upper body, it's the stretch in the hips. It's safely getting the legs into lotus. If you do not yet have a lotus with your legs, don't practice that version of the pose yet. Work on your lotus pose before moving on to this variation. Uttana Padasana is a really interesting kind of extension onto Matsyasana. As we lift our feet up and our arms up, we are required to use the core. Part of what's tricky about that is that we're also in this extension with the spine. So the spine is curving. We are in a back bend, lengthening out these muscles. At the same time, they have to come online and work to keep us up as soon as we don't have the support from the legs or feet on the floor. So typically, if you were going to do core work, if you were going to try to strengthen your core, you would not want a big bend in your back, and you would do something like a crunch, right? And as you crunch up, the muscles in the abdominals are actually shortening quite a bit. So that helps us with the power, with the engagement. Now, when I bring my head to the floor here, these muscles are actually lengthening rather than contracting. But when I lift my hands and my feet, I'm requiring them to come online and to work even when they're in this lengthened position. I hope that you learned a new variation or version of Matsyasana fish pose by watching this video. Tell me which one is your favorite or which one you are going to try by commenting below. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel so that you don't miss any future yoga deep dives, yoga classes, and so much more. If this video was helpful to you, please consider sharing it with a friend. Thank you so much for being here, and I can't wait to see you next time.